Right, and there we go. Okay, I just had to go over to the YouTube window and mute that, so that way I don't hear myself twice there. Okay, well, hello everybody, and welcome to the mic stand as we're about to get ready to take it to the mic. We're gonna at least give it a couple more minutes, a few more minutes here. I know we already got like 3 or 4 people in here already, and it's good to see you guys. Um, if you want to like say hi or whatever, now it says we only have 2 people in here.
Hello, hello everyone. Yeah, 2 people watching. Okay.
Well, let's see. On the YouTube, it tells me there's 2 watching, and there's Action Toys. Hello, guys. Hey, TC. And then on
Hello.
the StreamYards, now it went down to 2. So counters being funky, I guess.
Hello, Toys. Yeah, it does that. Remember when we noticed that it goes up and down usually 1 or 2 if there's like people coming in within like 30 seconds or something.
Yeah. Hello, guys. Hey, TC. Yeah. So we're gonna, of course, just kind of wait it out a little bit and just give some people a little more time to get in here before we get started. So how did your day go today, Batgoat?
Today was good. Let's see. I didn't do anything today. Yesterday was busy. Yesterday I was out doing all the shopping and whatnot. What did I do today? One of my friends came over, did a little more cleaning, and that's what I did today. I got my daughter's Christmas present all squared away, so I'm done.
Yeah.
Like I got everyone presents, and I'm very proud of myself.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I know that for me today was laundry day. I got my laundry done. That's what I was finishing up there. But that goat is flowing free today.
Thank you for noticing, Toys. Hey, Mike, what did I say to you before we went on air? What did I tell you?
That people were wanting to see your beard flow.
So I had to go fluff it up, like as he was talking to me for the last minute before the show went on. That was our show prep. Well, it's part of it.
Yeah. So basically, I did find out over the last few days. Like I told you guys that my dad had passed away last Sunday. I know I told you on Tuesday because you weren't here on Monday, but so I guess the funeral is going to be Wednesday, the 23rd there, so the day before Christmas Eve, and then we'll probably be having like Christmas dinner together. And my older sister's son will be coming down for, he'll be in the 22nd on Tuesday. So,
okay. How old was he?
74.
Okay.
He had been diagnosed. He had been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer like last November of 19. So, and then in October he decided to stop the treatments and just, he had basically been home the whole time. He never like went into hospice care or anything like that. He was home the whole time. So,
well, that's good. That's something to hold on to. My dad did not want to leave the house when I kind of forced his hand on that. This is all 21 years ago when he died, but I was a medic at the time, and he wanted to stay home, and my stepmom wasn't having it, so I forced his hand, and he had to leave his house.
Well, why wasn't your stepmom having it?
She didn't want to take care of him, and like it just, I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe I shouldn't have worded it like that, but yeah.
Well, again, you wouldn't be the first one this week to kind of let loose on words. If you remember the other day.
Yeah, you lit him up. You went to town.
Well, why do you think I try to stay away from politics? You saw
Yeah.
how animated I. Well, I think you've seen. I'm the type of person when I'm into something, I can get real animated real quick.
Yeah. You were going off on SJWs in general, so that's why we were all like, well, it's cool. We agree they're scum and vermin and they need to leave this planet. It's just in how you word it.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Anyways, I'm just gonna leave it at that because so we don't get
Absolutely.
But anyways, let's talk
Sure.
about some happier stuff, like some of the comics that we're gonna look at, like King Comics. Tip Top Features. Now again, we're in June of 1936 here, so a lot of I guess I'll just get started here. There's only three of us here, but you know, you you know, they're still in the height of the depression, and a lot of the comic books right now are still like hodgepodge type anthologies. They have a little bit of everything in them. As we get to now, as we get to the end of 36 in December of 36, then you'll start seeing themed anthologies being done, meaning that you'll still have the anthologies, but they'll be covering like a specific theme. I think detective picture stories will be one of the first ones that you'll see there, and then the new comics will actually transition to more of a themed anthology, even though it'll still be somewhat hodgepodge as well. So, um, but with more of an emphasis. But when we get there, I'll explain more of that when we get to that particular point. Right now, we're still dealing with hodgepodge anthologies, have a little bit of everything. So let's see. So that's basically what's on tap. And of course, at the very end, of course, this day in each history as well. So, um,
Our favorite part.
yeah, being
But
able to look.
the whole show is great, but niche history is always a good way to wrap it up. And so we like that. Hey, I wanted to ask Toys real quick. Can you tell that my computer sucks? I'm just using the camera on my laptops. But does it look better now? I asked Mike. He said it looks a little darker. I turned off my overhead light and just put on a camera light on me. So I'm just wondering if you notice that, or does it look better than me being completely flushed out with white light?
I'm gonna go off camera for a moment, guys. So
Okay. So I can show you what I mean real quick.
all right, I'm back.
This is what the big light being. This is what I mean. It's overhead and it shows off my glorious 7 head, which I don't like. So I think.
Yeah, and I think I've noticed that there's a bit more of a glare with that too. With
There
that
is big.
overhead light.
I've got a big forehead to begin with, so yeah. Let's. Okay, I'm glad that everyone's on board with that. I'll do that. Okay.
Well, let's see. According to Action Toys Channel, it says looks good, not as fuzzy. So,
Okay.
I think either way works. I guess depending upon
Yeah,
might be.
we need a
It's
better
either
camera too.
it's either fuzzy or glare. That's
Glare,
basically.
yeah.
So,
We'll take the fuzz. I like this.
and there's nothing wrong with using your laptop camera. That's basically that's what my setup is my laptop.
Okay.
So there's nothing wrong with that. Let's see. It looks like we're just past the 9-minute mark. So maybe I'll start setting up here.
I do have a good camera. I've got a great. Well, it's not a great camera, but I have a good video camera, and I've got microphones and much more lighting. I have video stuff. I'm not using it right here.
That's the. That's actually the. It's actually the wrong one. That's the this day in each history part. Let's see. Let's see. There we go. There we go. That's one right there. 1080p 60 FPS. camera is cheap and a great camera. All right, I'm not as technically savvy. Maybe Batgoat, you know more about that stuff than.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would if I wanted a good. I would actually plug in my Canon Vixia, and I would set that up, and I would go through the USB, and I've got studio mics. I've got all the equipment. I just
Mhm.
I haven't been uploading videos.
Yeah. So, anyways, well, we're past the 10-minute mark. What do you think, Becco? You think I should wait a few more minutes, see if more people show up, or do you think I should just get going?
Yeah, I'd say just may as well just head into it at this point.
All right. So, anyway, so we see here that we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Six titles. It's popular comics from Dell isn't there. Now, remember, this is during the time of the Depression. So even though these were, as I mentioned last week, even though these were monthly titles, you know, they didn't always come out every month, and probably because of production costs. Now, granted, popular comics would sit there and publish 2 comics 1 month and then no comics a month. So probably is how they balanced it out. So let's go
Even
ahead. Oh, go
evening
ahead.
Anon,
Oh, Anon's here, huh?
he
Hey,
is
anonymity. You're actually here early tonight. Let's see. Yo, just got home. About to smoke and eat RQ.
real quick.
Real quick. Think I'm hanging with my lady friend a bit later. Well, we're going to be going through June of 1936. So today, my wife cleared out my office and made it a bedroom. Laugh out loud. Oh, boy.
Sherlock pipe. He thinks I have a Sherlock pipe, but when I'm chewing on my pen, I'll have to remember not to chew on my pen then. Or maybe I should get a Sherlock pipe just to chew on
Ha
while
ha
I'm on
ha. And if
camera
I
here.
that had a damn Sherlock. Do, 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 do. Evening, gentlemen. Evening, anonymity. Oops.
Oh, toys. Bummer. I just read that.
Ha ha
Oh,
ha. Oh, no action. I guess, hey, Woody. Welcome
Woody.
to the stream. And then, hey, Woody. Okay, so, excuse me one more time. Sorry, guys. I got to go off camera for a second. Right back.
I need it. I have a smoking pipe, but I live in Minnesota, so and plus I wouldn't want to upset Mike but you know the pipe that I like I can't do that on camera.
Evening, Woody.
A Sherlock. Oh gosh,
Need the smoking pipe.
that's funny.
That goat
Oh,
would look great with Sherlock. Actually, if I understand correctly, you kind of do have the Watson look there, that goat. I think if, as I understand the way Watson was usually portrayed, you kind of have that look down.
yeah, I think so. I hope so. I want it to be an old school look. This is some you've seen it before where I curl it up and puff it out. That takes a long time to do as well.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh my gosh, that place was home to a bazillion toy figures. Um, okay. Ha 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 ha. Sherlock can have hat in them. I've seen it. Or is there a separate workshop that's not the office? Maybe. Okay. Well, anyways, guys. Let me just let me just mention what I was mentioning earlier, and I know I said this a couple of times yesterday too, because knowing that these are hodgepodge anthologies, I usually will go through the particular comics that are what I would classify as milestone issues. Those issues that are factors of 5, 10, or 25, or of course debut issues. This month, obviously, we don't have them. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'll just read off the synopses, you know, um, And if there's a particular story, if there's a particular synopsis that grabs your attention, that maybe you want to hear a little bit more about, you maybe you want to actually hear me read the actual full story, then I'll do that. Just either let me know in the comments or let backup know in the comments so that I can go ahead and go get that set up. But primarily tonight it's going to just be summaries, unless of course there's a summary that catches your attention that you want me to go more into the actual story. So that's the plan for tonight. So let's see. I've seen it. Or okay, we already went through all that. And then office and workshop was the same place. Okay, so anyway, so we got according to the thing here, we're marked as having four people. So let's get started here. So first off, we're going to take a look at King Comics #4 here from David McKay Company. King Comics, of course, was a comic book that featured the King Feature Syndicate, which included, of course, Popeye, Flash Gordon, Mandrake the Magician, all of those. Now here, we have Thimble Theater. Now all this is going to say that the synopses aren't actually here. We got like four. So the total page on 64 pages. We have 4 pages here. Thimble Theater, um, Jungle Jim, Flash Gordon, 4 pages. Now, usually when they do it like this, when there's like 2 features, in one section, probably means that like you guys remember seeing it. One feature would be on top of the page, the other one would be on the bottom part of the page.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's basically what they meant by that. So let's see. Then you got G-Man, which is 4 pages. 4 pages of Henry. 2 pages of Bringing Up Father. 4 pages of Ace Drummond. 4 pages of Ted Towers Animal Master. And even by the titles, you can kind of tell what they probably might be. King of the Royal Mounted. 4 pages. 4 pages of Back Bradford. I think Little King. 4 pages. 4 pages of Ming Fu and Little and Rooney. 4 pages of Radio Patrol. Mandrake the Magician. 4 pages. And 2 pages of Just Kids. So basically, so as you can see, there are like 14 features in this issue.
I'm
Now,
guessing
go ahead.
Radio Patrol is probably about cops, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah, and then there's another comic that DC did. In fact, we'll probably see that when I was doing previews earlier. Um, there's another one called Radio Squad as well. There's another comic. Now that one's not a reprint of these. That one's more original.
Okay. I'm just thinking that saying Radio Squad or Radio Patrol back then, if you're talking about the cops getting out there in their squad cars and being radio dispatched,
right?
That was high tech. That was top of the line stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was brand new, all that back then.
Mm-hmm. As I said, we'll go here to the Grand Comics database. Go to this particular form of which of course ran from 1936 to 1949. As it says here, of course, comic strip reprints of King features, syndicate titles, mostly Sunday strips with a few dailies, some original text stories with incidental illustrations. So here's one where we actually do have a full comic index. The ones in white there just were what they called skeleton data. So the cover page here, with 1 page, what you have on the cover there is you have Brick, Bradford, Mandrake, Little Annie Rooney, Henry, Popeye, and Just Kids. So that's who supposedly you had and all the characters there. And then now I see where Popeye was. When I looked at this cover earlier, I didn't even see where Popeye was. I did see Mandrake. I did recognize Mandrake right here. But let's see. So the first story was Thimble Theater comic story, 4 pages. Characters Popeye, Wimpy, Olive Oil. Okay, so no actual synopses there. From Thimble Theater Sundays King Feature Syndicate from November 24th, 1935 to December 15th, 1935. So this story that would have been here would have been in the newspaper, back in 1935. See. Smells all right. Smells mighty good. Say, cook one for me, just like it. I don't know if that was Wimpy probably saying that, or that was the first log of dialogue from there. Now, mind you, King Comics, I won't be able to actually read any of the stories full because I don't know where any copies of King Comics are. They're not on Comics Books Plus or on that Read Comics Online site, so I can only do the synopses for this particular ones right here. So Jungle Jim, Flash Gordon, comic story, 4 pages, script by Don Moore. Oh, and of course, by the way, let's see, for the done by E.C. Segar. Um, Here, the script was done by Don Moore. Alex Raymond penciled and inked it. The character adventure, the genre was adventure. They didn't really say what the genre for Popeye was, but I would imagine that or Thimble Theater, but that was probably considered humor. Um, but in this one, it's adventure. Um, Flash Gordon, Zarkov, Dale Arden, Ming, the villain. I'm guessing that's Ming the Merciless. Um, Voltan and Baron. Is the king is the king dead? Should we surrender? From Flash Gordon Sundays, King Feature Syndicates, again from November 24th to December 15th, 1935. G-Man, script by 4 pages, script by George Clark. And this one had, like, as I said, 14 features in it, I guess, from what I was able to tell here. So, and Lou Hanlon did the pencil and inking. This was a detective mystery story from the G-Man Sundays. No dick given there. And Carl Anderson's Henry, Humor Children, from Henry Sundays. So, and I'm just reading off some of these as an idea of just to show you how like diverse the content was. It's funny how they talk about how many people today talk about how they want comics to be more diverse. But if now, Grant, we know what they really mean. They mean racially diverse, of course. But if you really think about it, many of these early anthologies were pretty diverse in terms of the types of stories you get. You get some action, you get some sports, you get some humor. There was quite a bit of a diverse series of content here. Sports features, which they classified as a cartoon, a 1 pager by Jack Rumley, Good Lookers. That was a sports story. What was that?
I'm sorry. I think, let's see. Is there 7? I think I'm hoping my daughter might be watching. I was just texting her.
Oh, do we have more people in here now?
There was 7, and then it's down to 6.
Oh, you think your daughter might have been watching?
Yeah, I was just texting her instructions on how to open the video up because she's not used to. She doesn't go on YouTube, so.
Oh.
If sweetie, if you're there, hi.
Okay. Okay. So, well, I don't know what Batgoat daughter name is, but
it's Madison. So everyone say hi to Madison or Maddie, Maddy.
Hello, Maddie. Welcome to the stream. I hope you'll enjoy the content here. Your dad's been my co-host as we've been doing the comic retrospectives here. We're just sharing some very interesting information, and I hope you will enjoy the content, and I welcome you. If you're here, hello, hi. So we're at 6 people though, so that's still pretty cool.
We are nerds, Anon. I told her that too, so no surprise. I'm her dad too. She's pretty much aware of my geekiness.
So Maddie, if you're a nerd, yep. So as we continue, then news and pictures, Scott's scrapbook cartoon. Um, News and pictures, of course, is probably like kind of a article, news article type. But they probably instead of having actual text on the news, um, basically script penciled and inked by R.J. Scott, and then Scott's scrapbook. So I guess it's some scrap. Then we get a 2-page text story here, "The Lady from Town," script by Ruth Plumley Thompson, and pencil and ink by Marge Bell with lettering done in typeset. We have another one, Hinds on or Hints on Hiking, again by Ruth Plumley Thompson, possibly as RT, typeset again. And then Jake Burnley comes back with a sports genre, sports features, no title indexed. Of course, a lot of these didn't necessarily have titles in them either. A lot of them were just kind of just thrown up there. Bringing Up Father and Rosie's Bow by George McManus. That's a humor one. In the Bringing Up Father Sundays, my guess that'd be like kind of slice of life type humor. Um, like I don't know, wasn't Bringing Up Father, wasn't that one also made into a TV series at one point?
Oh gosh, maybe it
I thought
vaguely
it was
sounds familiar.
it would have been like a very old one, like probably back in the 50s or 60s or so.
All I can think of is The Courtship of Eddie's Father. That was with Bill Bixby, and that was on in the 60s.
Yeah, that could also be one I'm probably thinking of. And Rosie's Bow, I'm guessing, is kind of a romantic type humor strip. Um, um, so the Bring Up Father Sundays from 1936. Ace Drummond, 4-pager by the script by Eddie Rickenbacker, and then Clayton Knight. This is an aviation story, so I guess that shouldn't have surprised me because Ace Drummond, Ace of the Skies. And
yeah, I was going to say Eddie
Jerry.
Rickenbacker. I mean, unless someone's playing a game, he's a
already. Huh?
He's a famous pilot. Eddie Rickenbacker is a very famous pilot.
Ah.
In real life,
he decided to relay his experiences in comic form here, huh?
Either that or someone's using his name in jest, but that probably maybe he was writing as like a celebrity. I guess Rickenbacker. Oh, I'll have to look that up, or someone else can look it up. But yeah, he was a famous pilot.
Yeah. Well, I think you're more the aviation expert than I am. So
I'd like to think so. I used to fly.
So let's see. It's no use, Ace. Our radio is King Tut's grandmother's grandfather. That's an interesting way of putting it, huh? From Ace Drummond Sundays, 1936, King Feature Syndicate, 1936. And as I mentioned before, too, I remember the Popeye cartoons of the 60s where they'd have the King Features banner on there with, I guess, the eagle on top of it, and you'd have the feather pen go into the inkwell, and then, write out the end.
Yeah.
Ted Towers, Animal Master, script by Frank Buck, penciled and inked by Glenn Kravitz. Jungle is a jungle adventure type from Ted Towers, Animal Master Sundays and King Feature Syndicate 1936. Pedro springs savagely to attack the stranger. And I'm going to go off camera for a quick moment. My nose seems to be starting to run out a little bit again, so I'll be right back. Sorry about this, guys.
So, okay.
But again, it's just fascinating to see all this the diversity in content here when we're looking at this. That one, of course, Ted Towers is a 4-pager. Let's see, Ace Drummond was a 4-pager. These are considered comic stories. And you got the next comic story here, King of the Royal Mounted, by script by Zane Grey,
Zane Grey
penciled
is a famous author.
yeah, Charles and then pencil and ink by Charles Flanders. Well, I'm aware that he's pretty famous. I mean, and I think one of the reasons he's probably pretty famous is because if you remember, Zane Grey was apparently Colonel Potter's favorite author.
That's right. You brought that one up before. So
yeah, from MASH. He'd always see him like reading a copy of Zane Grey.
And I think Zane Grey were the pocket or the dime westerns. They were like the cheap western novels, like
the dime store westerns.
Yeah, he was prolific in that. Like he sold like a lot of them, and he was a household name. That's what I believe. I could be wrong. If someone wants to fact check me.
Charles Flanders would be a name you'd see quite a bit in comics as well as a pencil and inker. So this is an adventure. So I would think that this would be set up in Canada, obviously. King of the Royal Mounted, and I'm thinking King is probably a Mountie,
Yeah,
Royal Mounted police officer.
yeah, like
so,
Dudley Do Right.
Mm-hmm. So characters include Kid, Red Feather, King, Tiger, and Betty. First line of dialogue or text. Leaving King and Betty, we return to Kid, who has abandoned the river he was following. From King of the Royal Mounted Sundays, King Feature Syndicates. Let's see. November 24th to December 15th, 1935. Now, imagine that, though. Imagine, let's say, being somewhere like in an urban area, let's say like maybe like New York City or Philadelphia or something like that.
New York City.
Yeah, picking up a copy of King Comics and reading this story about probably somebody up in up in Canada, like up in maybe the Yukon Territory or something like that, and looking at the adventures they have here. Oh, I mean that you would think that with that you see that kind of adventure along with many of these other like Flash Gordon be a sci-fi one, Jungle Gym, you got Jungle Adventure. I mean, just the diversity of content right here. That's really and if you're saying that Zane Grey was known for dime store westerns, this is probably set up like talking about the Canadian West, probably probably up in like Alberta or Saskatchewan or that area. So, anyways, as we move ahead here to Brick Bradford in the Middle of the Earth, another 4-pager. Script by William. It's a 4-pager. Script is by William Ritt. Pencil and inked by Clarence Gray. It's an adventure type story. Now, I'm guessing this is more of a spelunking type adventure one, which there'd be a few of these, throughout the early days of comics. One that would come a little later in the I think the 50s or 60s would be Cave Carson in DC. But you'd have some, based on on the title here. I'm guessing this guy's probably a spelunker. Brick Bradford, Zara, Zadok, King Bennett, and you notice names like Zara and Zadok often get put into these type of subterranean adventure type stories. First line of that. We will make our camp here on the border of the Caterpillar Country. Caterpillar Country. That'd be an interesting country to see, wouldn't you say?
Were they rounding up wild caterpillars or something?
Maybe, I don't know, because again, I can't read the actual story, so
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of
and they don't have a synopsis here for it, so that might be a
yeah.
possibility though. Now the next one here is a 4-pager. You have The Little King, Sentinel Louis by Otto Shoglow here. Um, my guess is this might be another humor type story. You have another 4-pager, Little Annie Rooney and Ming Fu, script by Brandon Walsh. Not to be confused with the 90210 character. This guy obviously lived a long time before him. And then
Yeah,
doing the penciling and inking, Nicholas Afonsky. Um, let's see, it's an adventure children one. Little Annie Rooney. Again from November 24th to December 15th, 1935. Oh, Aunt Martha, can't we go any faster? Mrs. Meany and that detective will catch us. I guess that was, I guess, my little Annie, that little Annie right there. Another
nice,
human,
nice.
another human children, 1-pager here by Carl Anderson. Okay, Henry, another Henry story here, from earlier. We got Scott Scrapbooks, which is classified as a cartoon, over 2 pages here, typeset from R.J. Scott, and then and we have another cartoon story here from Ruth Plumley Thompson, and Marge Beal doing the yes.
That's my girl, Ruth Plumley. Remember, I was laughing at her name last week. Was it last week?
Or probably a couple weeks ago. I don't know if King. Well, it could have been last week, but um, when I'm cleaning the barn,
That
what we
almost sounds like it's like a game show, like you're setting up a joke, and so you say that, and then we're supposed to finish. I'm cleaning the barn, and then we all yell, I
yeah,
step in.
they just said the one line, so I don't know the context, but I could imagine that could be the context there.
Yeah, then the chat finishes the joke like I always step in cow poop or something like that.
Yeah, and then we have Jack Burnley again here with sports features with another sport cartoon 2-pager, and we got again Bringing Up Father and Rosie's Bow 1-pager again from George McManus. Humor one here from the Bringing Up Father Sundays in 1996.
That's really good, Woody.
What did Woody say?
Woody made it funny.
Let's see what he had to say there. That's something funny, huh? Nobody in here but us chickens. Yeah, classic. That's classic, all right. Ah, let's see. So do we know if Maddie is still with us there, Pat Goat, or
She may be. I don't know. She just texted me and said that she was on. So
okay? I just didn't see
that
her
was a while ago.
text anything or say anything in chat there. That's why I was asking.
Oh, she won't. She won't. She won't do that. She's just texting me on my phone.
Uh,
She would never in a
well,
million years. She's very shy.
well, well. If you'll just let me. And here's Radio Patrol. It's an adventure one. Is by script by Eddie. Now, script, of course, I would imagine is a writer. Radio Patrol 4 pages. Eddie Sullivan, Charlie Schmidt. The classified here as a adventure one. Pinky Pinkerton's the so it probably is because if I remember, was Pinky Pinkerton, was he an outlaw? Or was he a sheriff?
No, he would have been. He would have been a good guy because of the Pinkerton Detective Agency. So
That's
they're
right.
probably
So that's probably
yeah,
what this story is about. Then the
yeah.
Pinkerton.
They Pinkerton's got a long history in the United States. Not all of it's stellar. They've done some bad things.
So let's see. Pinky has been trapped into holding the bag for a woman shoplifter. That's the first line. from Radio Patrol Sundays. I guess this is one of those bad things you were talking about.
Okay.
Left holding the.
Well, actually, they're actually blamed for, I don't know how deep into history, American history you go to, but the riots in Chicago, the Pullman train car riots in Chicago in the 1850s or 60s, and like 30 people in the crowd. Like the Pinkerton Detective Agency was called in to privately stop the strikers, and they killed a bunch of them. Not good.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving on. So this is, of course, from November 24th to December 15th. From Radio Patrol Sundays. Then we get Mandrake the Magician in a story titled In the Land of the Little People. 4 pages. Script by Lee Falk. Penciled and inked by Phil Davis. Fantasy Supernatural. This is from Mandrake the Magician. Sunday's King Feature Syndicates. Again, from November 24th to December 15th, 1935. And Carl Anderson comes back for 2 pages with Henry. Humor Children from Henry Sundays in 1936. And the last story here is Just Kids, a 2-page comic story by A.D. Carter. I guess the genre's children. I can't. Well, let's see. I can't play today because I got to take my little cousin out for a walk in her carriage. So again, and as you notice here, there's quite a bit of the there's quite a bit of diversity here. You have humor, you have a lot of these stories that are directed towards children. You have adventure, you have like detective agency, you have jungle adventure, you have space adventure, you have fantasy supernatural. So that's all of what was in King Comics for that month there. Let's see. Oh, Cheney's here. Hello, Cheney. 07. Hello, Cheney. Welcome to the stream. Hopefully you'll have some fun here as we look back through some history here. So as we continue on here, let's go next to Tip Top Comics number 3 here. United Features. Approximate on sale date was June 1st, 1936. Of course, this one, as we noted before, had like Tarzan and little Abner in it, the Cats and Jammer Kids. So let's go and check out the summaries of this one as I go to that particular the Grand Comics. Number 3 here. Oh, this one might only have skeleton data. It means they probably don't have too much of a synopsis here. That'd be the cover. Cover is Tarzan typeset, Hal Foster, the author, indexer notes, the art. On the cover is blown up detail from Hal Foster panel. And there's no synopses here, unfortunately. But maybe we'll come back to this. Maybe I'll come back to this one in a little bit, and since we don't have the synopsis, maybe we'll like kind of breeze through the actual comic if we can find it a little later. So because we're already at the 42-minute mark here, so
yeah.
Okay, so new comics number 6 here. Monthly title, 64 pages. And we have all these stories here, including Captain Jim, Um, Dale Daring. Instead of going to since this one's a DC one, um, under the national, as you see up here, under the National Allied Newspaper Syndicate title here. That's what one of the companies DC was known as back in 1935, right there. I'm going to actually go to the DC database site because they have a few more notes with the synopses here that um, there we go. Oh, I know, actually 1/6. Captain Jim and the Texas Rangers, the train robbery, chapter 5. They have a quote up here. Ian Murray, um, cover dated July of 1936. Of course, this came up but it was put on sale in June of what? So Ian Murray says, "What a fine pair! We taught these chinks." Now, remember, this is the way they talked back then, guys. I know, granted, I know we don't have anybody here who get too upset at that phrase, but I think we all understand what that phrase is,
Mm-hmm.
why
Mm-hmm.
why some people would get upset at it. But remember, this is how they talked back in the 30s in referencing people like that.
Yes.
So much, so much about drill and tactics that we worked ourselves right out of a job. Um, So the first story here is Captain Jim, um, the train robbery, part 5. You had Captain Jim of the Texas Rangers. Um, so you
I'll be
have
right back. I'm
okay,
gonna step off camera for a minute.
all right. Ranger Bob is supporting the antagonist, Mr. Laney dies. Scar and other rustlers, Johnny and Jane, American Old West. Um, Jim has gathered a posse from town to help track down Lane and the kids. Meanwhile, Jane and Johnny are led to a remote cabin where they are put under guard by two of Lane's men. Um, they manage to escape, however, when the two guards get in a brawl over a card game. Now, mind you, these are all original stories. These are not reprints. So, see, Don Coyote jousting. Don Coyote, Hamburger, and Hash are the supporting characters. You have Middle Ages here. Um, this is the feature that started out as sirloin of beef, I believe. I believe this one started out as sirloin of beef. So Hash comes up with a prank to pull when he sees Don and Hamburger jousting with bags of sand. Castaway Island, episode 5. Dougal McDougal is the featured character. Larry and Sally um, are the supporting characters. And yes, it looks like the antagonist was blackface. So, again, just a sign of the times there. So let's see if there's um, anything new being said here thus far. Nope, not yet. Okay, so okay, so as we continue on, then. So on Castaway Island, episode 5 here, the search for Sally reaches a dead end. McDougal and Larry start to think of a new plan when Blackface and his cohorts appear out of the brush with guns pointed. Do, 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 do. Oh, Oz Bop and Evelyn Bop. Um, Oz has an annoying friend and tells corny jokes all day. When Evelyn tells Oz that he's coming over tonight, Oz takes measures to avoid seeing him. You back there, Batgoat?
I am. I'm sorry. Yep, I'm here.
So the synopses I've read thus far is I'm down to old Oz Bop here, just so you can take a quick peek at what I just read. Captain Jim and the Texas Rangers, which is a Western adventure type. And we have Don Coyote, who was formerly known as Sirloin of Beef, of a Middle Ages knight, and then Castaway Island here, which is kind of like one of those like kind of deserted island type adventure stories. And Oz Bop, which I believe is more of a humor story here. And we get Captain Quick, episode 5. Captain Quick, and then this one's a historical adventure, of course. Marjorie Barlow and the Bonnie Best crew. The antagonist being Don Pedro Vicente de Gonzalez Gordoza, who dies, Captain Rodriguez and the Spanish crew. Location, high seas, 1587, and the destination being Plymouth, England. Vessels, the Bonnie Bess, a three-masted privateering warship, aka pirate ship, captured, and then three Spanish galleons. Captain Quick here. Aboard the Bonnie Bess, bound for England, two prisoners argue. Captain Rodriguez and Marjorie Barlow, who reveals that she still loves Quick. But Captain Rodriguez, again, this is, of course, a historical, seafaring type adventure, naval adventure. But Captain Rodriguez needs to marry her so that he can rescue her father, Lord Barlow, from the Inquisition. In the brig, Captain Quick has Don Pedro released from his irons on his word of honor to cause no trouble. Suddenly, above decks, three Spanish ships loom out of a fog bank and rapidly approach. Cannon fire is exchanged, and amid the noise, Don Pedro reneges on his promise, sneaks to the mainmast and out and cuts an important halyard, dropping the mainsail to the deck. Quick fells him with a pistol shot. Fells him basically means puts him down, basically. But battle at this point
It
would be
means he busted a cap in his butt.
Yeah, that'd probably be the modern day colloquialism there.
And I cleaned it up a little.
Right. Yeah, I think we all know how it actually is said, but thank you for cleaning it up. Battle at this point would be hopeless, so Quick orders the raising of the white flag. Dale Daring, the Drew Mystery, Part 3. Dale Daring, Dick Sparks' supporting character. Fitch is the antagonist, and Dr. Milliard's the other character here. Dale and Dick are able to track the criminals to a lone cabin by the lake. They hear the men question Dr. Milliard, but one of the crooks sneaks up behind them and holds Dale and Dick at gunpoint. Cal and Alec, Knife Ambush, Part 6. I think this one was Sagebrush and Cash before. So the two main characters are Cal and Alec. Knife Ambush is the antagonist here. I think this is actually adventure humor, Western adventure humor. And then Ben and Jay Aloysius Witherspoon. Cal and Alec split up once they're in town. They each gather up some recruits for the plan to catch Knife Ambush. Now we have Sandor and the Lost civilization, Raja Maharaja. Another, this one being a jungle adventure type. Sandor, the main character. Agra, the lion behind the scenes, and Alika, the wild dog. Antagonist, the Raja Maharaja, his many spearmen, his elephant, his witch doctor, and then the jungle goddess.
I told the witch doctor I was in love with you. He said, ooh, ee, ooh, ah.
From Alvin and the Chipmunks right there.
Mm-hmm.
Jungle goddess, Bagheera the leopard, favorite of the jungle goddess, and then located in northern India in the lost civilization. Sandor is cornered and vastly outnumbered, but takes a fight directly to the enemy, thrashes a few of them, then shakes off the rest and leaps to a rocky ledge. But he is snagged by an enemy elephant, up by the by the spearmen, and tied to a stone image of the jungle goddess, all at the direction of Raja Maharaja's witch doctor, who says that Sandor is to be sacrificed at sundown. To Bagheera the leopard, the dog that Sandor rescued earlier, overhears all this and quickly rushes off to tell his pack. As the sun goes down, Sandor can see the leopard start to slowly stalk towards him. Then he hears a lion roar. And before I go on, I'm going to go off camera for another quick sec here.
I've got that song stuck in my head. Ooh, ee, ooh, ding, dang, wada, bing, bing. I told the witch doctor. How does that go? Woody, you take the next verse.
Hey, Batgo, were you aware there were actually two Alvin and the Chipmunk cartoons? There was the Alvin show back in the 60s, and then there was Alvin and the Chipmunks in the 80s.
I remember Alvin and Chipmunk in Chipmunks in the 80s for sure.
And the Chip Dads and all that. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. I love them. Yeah,
but in my research, I'd found that there was actually a show called The Alvin Show. Back, I think it started around 61.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's because that witch doctor song is what? That's about circa 58, something like that. It was late 50s, right?
Yeah.
That's when they had got popular, so they were probably writing that initial popularity for.
I'll be right back again. Sorry, I gotta go off camera one more time.
See, there, Woody's got it. He took over for me on the next lines of the song.
All right. Well, let's see. I told the witch doctor you didn't love me true. Okay. Well, anyways, and now getting back to the stories here. So we have Needle uses his noodle rocket to the moon. That one sounds like a humor one. Needle starts building a rocket that will take him to the moon. So think about this now. Think about this now. Here's a story about kind of the fantasizing about space travel and stuff like that. We're still like what 30 years away from before we get to the moon. And look, they're already talking about it in some of these comic stories.
Yeah. That was huge for them.
Mm-hmm. Andy Handy. Andy thinks about making a garden, but his back makes the digging difficult. Guess he's got a bad back. I guess that. And here's another Mountie story. McGinnis of the Mounties, the St. Pierre Mystery, Part 3. The featured character is Constable Dan McGinnis. The Mounties are the supporting cast with Major Hall. The antagonists are three gunmen, and then other characters, of course, are Old Man Dubois and Yvonne Dubois. Location Canada, the St. Pierre country, St. Pierre River. As McGinnis tends to Dubois' gunshot wound, the man from before approaches them again, and this time he tries to aim for McGinnis. But Dubois is able to reach for his own gun and shoot the would-be murderer down. Unfortunately, this calls the other two criminals to their location. She, episode 1. This is a debut story right here. First appearance of these characters. Horace Holly, big game hunter. Leo Vinci, adventurer. Job, I guess that's Job, as in the biblical Job servant. Antagonist She, priestess of eternal life, mentioned only. Her tribe, not yet named. Other characters include the Menartes, the ancestress of Leo Vinci, Mahomet, um, okay. I don't know if that could be a spelling error or what. Location, Indian Ocean. Core, an island off the eastern coast of Africa. That's their destination. The Ethiopian Head, a strange rock on the eastern coast of Africa. Vessels, passenger steamship, and the African Dhow. Okay. So this is the first story of She. So Horace Holly, an ugly but extremely strong and very kind college student, um, becomes the adoptive father of a little boy named Leo Vinci. The two become inseparable and do everything together. Also adopted is an iron box with a note directing that it not be opened until Leo's 25th birthday. On that birthday, the iron box is opened, and within it is a silver chest. And within that is a shard um, inscribed with a scarab glyph, a scarab glyph, and some scrolls denoting Leo's lineage. He is descended from a woman named Armenartis, um, whose mate was killed on Core Island by an immortal high priestess known as She, who rules over a fierce tribe of people in the caves of Core. The message directs Leo to continue his father's quest for She, the princess of eternal life. Well, there's kind of another deserted island type of adventure story, obviously. It sounds like um, Leo, Horace, and their servant Job take a steamship as far as Zanzibar, which takes 3 weeks. Then hires a dhow to search the coast for a peculiar rock formation with no warning. A hurricane um, arrives and swamps the little craft. That sounds like an interesting story, huh?
Mm-hmm.
1720 on the Black, Part 6. Jim Gale, featured character. Frog Morton, the antagonist. Kim, one of the other characters. And then
Our
location,
our gambler buddy.
right, the gambler adventure. Benico Bahia Harbor, where they're at. Still believing Jim to be tied up in the hold, Frog tells the first mate, actually Jim Gale in disguise, to dock at the harbor of Benito Baja. Jim secretly trails Frog into the town. Steve Conrad on Dolores Island Part 2. Steve Conrad's another kind of, subterranean world adventure type of guy, Spelunky type. Well, I don't know if he's as much as Spelunker, but basically kind of an underworld adventurer type. In this case, meaning subterranean underworld, not mafia underworld. Um, Featured characters, Steve Conrad. Supporting characters, Myra Rutherford and Hugo Judd. Other characters, Sam and Keith Rowland. Location, South Pacific, Dolores Island, off the coast of Japan. Now, get this. You notice there seem to be a lot of these exotic locations in these stories. A lot of these like kind of islands in like the Indian or Pacific or South Pacific Ocean. It just kind of that makes some of these adventure stories so much more fascinating. And you may notice too, this comic is already starting to go towards more of the more adventure stories and humor. They still have some humor in it, but if you notice, there seems to be kind of a direction where they're going with more adventure stories here than humor stories.
Yeah.
Would you concur with that?
I agree. They're sticking to those themes like you mentioned, the desert island type of thing. We got our gambler buddy, but those are. It seems to be those are your. That's what they want for the serials. That's what they want to
Right.
keep people reading, coming back.
Well, right, because if you think about, I mean, think about. Okay, let's put ourselves in that time period, right? You know, maybe in one of the urban areas, like as I said, New York, Boston, Philadelphia. You know, and then you're picking up new comics number 6. You're opening it up, and you're going from looking outside your window and seeing the big city to going into the comic here and looking, and you're all of a sudden you're on a deserted island somewhere. You're on an island in the South Pacific, with volcanoes and tribes, and you know so
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey,
go ahead.
hey, Leto. Good to see you.
Leto's here, huh? Hey, Leto.
Yeah, I think he's headed into work probably. So that's cool. We know you're listening. Good to have you as always.
Yeah, well, I hope you enjoy the content that we're doing. We're looking at June of 1936. What went on sale on the comics. So, kind of give you an idea of just escapism of the time and how people were looking to escape and how far they were looking to escape. You know, kind of the fascinating thing when you see many of these particularly these adventure stories. As I mentioned earlier, Batgoat, how you're going to start seeing kind of some of the comics, and towards the end of the year here, where you're actually going to have the themed anthologies start coming forth. Some of the anthologies that are already out there, already starting to make that transition here.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, as Steve and his companions start to explore Dolorosa Island, they get caught in a tropical storm, which drags Sam and Keith out to the rocky outcrop several miles away from the island. Steve, Myra, and Hugo search for their friends immediately after the storm, but find trouble with the natives instead. Do, 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 do. Slim and Tex, rattlesnakes in bed. Slim and Tex are the featured characters. This one's a bit more of a humor western, and you'll see why as you probably will read this. You can already guess by telling who the characters are what's going on here. Tex throws a punch at Slim for putting rattlesnakes in his bed. Angrily, Slim searches the town to pay Tex back. Now, Batgo, can you guess what the theme of this story is? What?
Western, the
Oh,
Western theme.
yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, not theme. I meant plot. Can you guess what the main plot of this story is?
Some good natured ribbing, some jocularity. Is there going to be a little revenge?
Okay, basically this particular comic story.
Mm-hmm.
You see the two. Okay, you see the two feature characters, Slim and Tex, there, and then you see the other character, Miss Helen. Why do you think they might be ribbing each other or trying to one up? A better way of saying it might be, why do you think they're trying to one up each other?
Oh, for the lovely lady, I would imagine.
That is basically what this particular comic strip is about.
Yeah, that's a classic theme too.
Yeah, these two guys vying for the attention of Miss Helen. That's what this particular story is about. And I know this because again, this is a DC comic, so and I've read these before, so for my own purposes. Ray and Gale, The Secret Cruise, Part 4. Ray and Gale are the featured characters, and the other characters include Willie Gugaw, Joe, Aunt Millie, Bill Gugaw, and Sir Gaunt. So here's the synopsis here. Joe tells Willie about his Aunt Millie being eaten by sharks. Ray and Gale believe that his story sounds a little strange. Captain Guga discovers that someone had stolen the map from his cabin and that it was most likely Aunt Millie. Just as they are all heading back to Ray and Gale's cabin, they see Aunt Millie standing before them in her girdle, asking where her clothes went. Then something mighty peculiar. There is something mighty peculiar going on. Can you take a wild guess at what is probably going on?
No, I'm lost.
They suspect her of stealing the map.
Okay.
She comes out without her clothes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking how gross that is.
Huh?
I'm thinking that's probably gross. Like she's like Granny from the Beverly Hillbillies coming out in her girdle.
Yeah, but if she's coming out in a girdle, her clothes are missing.
Yeah.
And they suspect her of stealing the map. What does that add up to, possibly? Could it be maybe somebody stole her clothes to make it look like she stole the map?
Yeah, did she do that herself?
I don't know, but I don't.
Sure. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I wasn't following.
Mhm. Like Vikings episode 6.
See, I
Ivar.
wonder if it's like Juicy Smollett, where she's like faking an attack. So she took the map, maybe, to throw people off her trail.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah. Yeah. Well, Juicy Smollett, I think, is a he, not a she, but you may be confusing him with his sister, who's an actress as well. Who was
Oh
on.
no, I was like Jussie Smollett. Yeah, I was just being mean. I shouldn't have done it.
So, okay, featured character Ivar. This is the Viking storyline. Hal, who dies in Vikings, are the other characters. Middle Ages, Scandinavia. Again, here we go to another exotic location, Scandinavia, up north, as we venture with the Vikings here. Hal becomes Ivar's most trusted bodyguard after being bested by him in a duel. Ivar receives word that his new ships have been completed. Um, Setting sail with his crew, Ivar starts the exploration, parts unknown. A storm separates Ivar's um, ship from the rest of his fleet, and Ivar himself is thrown overboard into the crashing waves. Not wasting a second, Hayal jumps in after him, succeeds in pulling Ivar back to safety, the ship drowning in the process.
Woody, I thought you were getting all excited about the new TOS, like Twitch style, and you were booting him for saying simp, because that's a verboten word now. Simp. You can't use that on Twitch.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so we're coming up on an hour 15, so I'm gonna forego the rest of these synopses because the reason I wanted to come to this area was because they had notes on here, but we have 7 people in here now. Cool. So I'm gonna forego going through the rest of these particular synopses because got quite a few of them. They're like 28. The point I wanted to look at here. Well, yeah, I'll read Federal Men because that one's an interesting one. Federal Men: The Invisible Empire, Part 3 of 7. This is kind of a G-Man Secret Service type comic story. This one is actually written by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who did Superman. Steve Carson, the featured character. Federal Men are the supporting characters. Invisible Empire, not named until Part 6, are the antagonists. Your location is Washington, D.C., the Tower building, which was historically supposedly destroyed. Items: terrorist engine stalling, anti aircraft ray gun, um, terrorist enormous tank vehicles, and then USAAF bombers. Now, this one I wanted to still read the synopses and then I'll go through the notes. A gigantic armored tank smashes its way through Washington, D.C., leveling many large buildings and destroys the Capitol building with cannon fire. Gas masked terrorists pile out of the vehicle and lay siege to the city. An anti-aircraft ray gun is wheeled out of the super tank, and it kills the engines of some counterattacking bombers. They drop from the sky. The president's Secret Service detail is mowed down. He is taken hostage. The gas mask terrorists have a list of all the federal men, and they plan on hunting them all down, especially Steve Carson. Meanwhile, Steve Carson isolates and attacks one gas mask hoodlum and steals his uniform. Now, Steve Carson is basically the super secret service agent. It's like he is the G man of G men, basically.
He's the guy. He's the G man, huh?
Right. Anyway, I got to go off camera for just a quick sec. I'll be right back.
Rock star. So I just remembered a little while back I'd mentioned Eddie Rickenbacker. I said, hey, he's a pilot. He was a famous World War I ace. And I'm doing this without Wikipedia. This is just me remembering. Rickenbacker was a famous World War I ace. So this was written in the 30s. So he had fame on his actual war record.
Yeah. So, anyways, let me go through these notes here. Published by National Allied Newspaper Syndicate Incorporated. That was basically one of the names DC went by before it became known as DC. This issue, Sagebrush and Cactus become Cal and Alec. This issue, the character Sirloin and Cowhide become Don Coyote and Hamburger. This issue features another installment of Famous Poems Illustrated, Kambalu by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, illustrated by Henry Kiefer. Let's see. In Federal Men, the U.S. Capitol building is destroyed and much death and destruction are wrought in Washington, D.C. After the end of this continued story in New Comics number 10, this is never mentioned again. The tank is at least 5 stories tall, and the president has white hair and a mustache. Now, mind you, this could be a multiverse story early on. You know, this could be happening in another part of the even though the multiverse concept isn't really even mentioned until the 60s. But you'd see a lot of this stuff too around this time where, you know, where they'd have these continuity issues because the stories would move all over the place. Sometimes you'd move from book to book and all that. So you'd see this. First issue for Golden Dragon by Tom Hickey. Golden Dragon, I don't think we read that synopsis, but that was another. That one may have been the Steve Conrad one, actually. But that one, I believe, was a subterranean adventure one. First issue of She by H. Rider Haggard and Sven Elven. Also appearing in this issue of New Comics introductory billboard from the editors, illustrated by Vincent Sullivan. Vin Sullivan, maybe seen before. Um, Bookshelf text article by Marjorie Knight. Fun Puzzle by Dick Speed. Gufo the Great by Alliger. Hook, Line, and Sinker, one panel gags about fishing by Whitney Ellsworth, who, of course, is a famous, not just a famous author, but also editor of DC back in this time. It's a darn lie. Wild Jungles of Rhode Island by Bill Patrick. Absent since New Comics #4. So it basically was Jibby by Vincent Sullivan, Magic text article by Andrini the Great, illustrated by Russell Cole, Radio Dialer by A.R. Lane, Rusty art, um, trivia. Russell Cole signed his Goofo the Great, and Ol Bob strips as Alger, and Richard Matheson signed his McGinnis of the Mounties as BB Mather. So, let me just see one more. And they do have some images. I won't show that, but there's some. I thought it was more fun. Tale of Two Cities, Captain Spinnaker. Oh, we were almost done anyways. But obviously, I want to try to get through these a little quicker here, so I'm going to probably try to breeze through the rest of them. Still kind of. Anyways. Actually, I could have read the synopses from here too, because I think they have them there too. So here's from Senchar Comics, you know, Comics Magazine, Funny Pages. You have a lot of stories there too. Well, actually, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 23 right here. Magazine, Funny Pages, #3. So I would say that this one is more humor, starting to go towards the humor side of the genre.
Hey,
So
Mike, who is that on the front cover there?
I believe that might be Dickie Duck.
Is it me, or does he seem like an early Daffy Duck, or maybe what led to the creation of Daffy Duck? Am I way off on that?
It's possible. I don't know as much about Dickie Duck, but
because I mean, he's lighting. Look at him. He's lighting a stick of dynamite like a cigar. So I can almost picture him doing the woo 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 woo, being crazy and like Daffy Duck.
maybe we'll see something in the synopses. When so I'm going to go over.
Just struck me, so I thought I'd say that.
Yeah. Let's see. Grand comment. So yeah, this is. Oh, numbering continues from the Comics Magazine coming, from volume 1, 2, and then numbering continues with Funny Pages, starting with issue #6. So this was basically the book where we saw the Doctor Occult story, where his name was changed to in issue 1 of this series.
To what was it? To something terrible, or what did they change his name to?
Okay, so this started out as the Comics Magazine, then went to um, Comics Magazine Funny Pages, and then became Funny Pages.
I'm just wondering. I forgot what Doctor Occult, what his temporary name change was.
When he went into when his story was written in Comics Magazine #1, his name was changed to Doctor Mystic.
Doctor Mystic. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, and I was right. This is Dickie Duck, cover 1 page, anthropomorphic funny animals. So
Dickie Duck. Yeah. That,
let's see. 2.5 million text article, 1 page. That's it. Indicia. The further adventures of Jane and Johnny. This is continuation of Captain Bill's stories in issue 1. Basically, this one is going back and forth between this magazine and New Comics. This is kind of with Captain Jim and the Texas Rangers as well. So if you remember that.
mm-hmm.
So humor genre. I'm not going to read the full synopsis. Introducing Sophie and Phil, Phil and Sophie. Humor. I'm just going to read like basically the genres here, just to try to get the Dickie Duck and um, funny animal. Um, Callie the Soft comic story, 2 pages. Soft could mean sophomore, so this could be a slice of life. Let's see. Oh, Sally, the dean wants to see. Oh, Sally, the dean wants to see you. So this is probably like a high school, slice of life humor story. Age of Stone, 2 pages, adventure humor. Skipper Ham Shank humor. Great luck. So as you notice here, a lot of these stories are humor. Anthropomorphic funny animals, Alfie Ellen. So you're starting you see so now as I was mentioning earlier, you're starting to see this now where now a lot of these hodgepodge anthologies are starting to make that transition to deciding, okay, are we going to be a humor comic or are we going to be an adventure comic? You notice that, Echo?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was writing something down. I totally missed it, what you said.
I was saying that now you're starting to see where a lot of these hodgepodge anthologies are starting to make that transition of deciding whether or not they're going to be a humor comic or they're going to be an adventure comic.
Yes, it does seem like they are making that distinction.
Here's another example of, you remember how earlier on the comic books were more kind of a hodgepodge of genres?
Yes. Yeah, they were throwing everything together, and now, like you were saying, it's leaning a lot heavier towards the adventure series.
Well, some comics are, and some are leaning towards the humor ones.
Okay.
This particular comic. Basically, the idea is that at the very beginning of comic books, they were doing they were kind of hodgepodging it, having a mix of humor and adventure. But
Mm-hmm.
as comics started becoming popular, now you're starting to see themed anthologies coming about. You start having some decide, okay, we're gonna focus on humor in this book, while in this book we're gonna focus on adventure. You know, so I'm gonna look one more thing up here from here. Let's see if we can find some information on Dickie Duck here, real quick, just so see if there's any information on here. Maybe they okay. So Dicky Duck was created by Romano. Oh, well, it wasn't that. Apparently, I'm looking at the. I'm looking at the address bar up here. You know where the site address is.
Uh-huh.
Apparently, Dicky Duck isn't patterned for Daffy Duck. It seems that Dicky Duck is patterned more for Donald Duck.
Is that right? Okay.
Dicky Duck here was created by Romaro Scarpa. She first appeared in Arriva, the Mind's granddaughter. There's Dicky Duck. Dicky Duck here from list of Donald Duck universe characters.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So Dicky Duck. Well, think about it now, though. Now that we know that, think about it. When you saw Dicky Duck like that, then it's kind of funny because I was thinking more Donald Duck when I saw him than Dicky Duck, or Daffy Duck rather. But you were coming up with Daffy Duck there.
Well, I like to think of the woo 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 woo, where he's running around like doing whatever, especially lighting up yeah, yeah, Daffy, exactly. Yes, 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 yes. That's
Yeah. Famous Funnies number 24 here, which again, these are all probably like, well, here it's probably more, see all those stories.
a whole
So
ton of them. Yeah.
a lot of, like, you have Joe Palooka, you have Dixie Dugan, you have Queenie, you have Ned Brandt. And some of these titles, Gene Orton and Lena Pry, and Bungle Family, they would move
Buck
around.
Rogers.
Yeah, they would move around from book to book. In other words, famous fun. They would be in famous
Yes.
funnies here from Eastern Color, but I can tell you, we'll probably see this in the future here. Some of these stories did go over and start actually becoming original stories in quality comics with feature funnies and then feature comics. But famous funnies incorporated what Eastern Color was called back in these days. We'll take a quick peek through the grand and I won't read the full on synopses. I'll just look through the genres and stuff like that, just so um and kind of quicken the pace a little bit here. I can say there are 6 titles here, then dealt, you know, and I'll get to that a little bit more here too. Let's see, we're up. So this one, so at this point, of course, Famous Funnies is probably the longest running one, considering it was like probably the first one of these become regular. So on the cover, our boarding house, and I think boarding houses were used a lot more back then too, back in those days as well. The humor strip, strange as it seems, nonfiction, indie front cover, goofy gags or unrelated gag panels humor. So you have humor, Nut Bros, a boarding house, humor. Uncle Amos kind of reminds me of Petticoat Junction a little bit.
I never watched Petty, or yeah, I never watched that. But
See, we have sports comic here, Fisher's History of Boxing, Joe Palooka, Nobby Walsh. Do you think it was worth coming? 2,000 miles? Top tier is Fisher's History of Boxing by the same creators. Ham, Fisher right there. So
Woody, are you still here? Petticoat Junction is the show. It started with the the ladies were all bathing in the water tower, right?
Yeah, that's how the intro would go. Basically, they
Yeah,
were running. They were running a inn near a train station, and then you had like Edgar Buchanan, uh,
yeah.
and
That
then
was a
you had
popular show. I never. That's a little before my time, so I never watched it. But I just remember that
well
it was a
B
big,
B
big.
B Benaderet, who was the first voice of Betty Rubble. She
Mm-hmm.
was Kate Bradley. And,
Okay.
okay, until she passed away, I think in '65, and then of course they brought in June Lockhart to play a female doctor, to kind of fill the role that B had served.
Okay.
So of the crowd, nonfiction. So this one's still a bit of a hodgepodge, but and but but a lot of these are also a lot of these are still reprints too. You have a lot of reprints here, still here. So as I told you before, like some of the titles, like Joe Palooka, Gene Arden, Lena Pride, among them, they would there would come a point when they would actually start getting original stories written, um, in future books they would be involved in. So basically, another kind of mix and match here stuff. Um, and I know I'm kind of breezing through these, but it's because I realized we were like go through
Yeah.
everything we've been going through. The idea is just to show you the diversity of the comics of the time. The content diversity in terms of you know
Yeah.
different types of stories and stuff like that, and and also getting into some of the escapism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You see that you're at 135 now, so
Yeah, so I'll probably start wrapping up. And then, of
okay.
course, more fun here. And these stories are all more, and they had Pep Morgan. Pep Morgan will actually eventually move to Action Comics when it debuts. Pep Morgan is a sports fantasy, or not sports fantasy, it's a sports comic.
Sports guy.
Yeah, Pep Morgan is kind of the super athlete, as it were. The guy they always bring in when they need a ringer or something like that.
Yeah. What, is it high school or is he just like a
High
young
school,
adult?
high
High
school,
school.
high school.
Was he the BMOC as they used to call it, the big man on campus?
Yeah, and then here's the story I was telling you about. That Goat Radio Squad.
Yeah.
There's another Siegel Schuster story.
Okay.
So I'm gonna
The,
go.
of the
Yeah,
Siegel Schuster of Superman
right.
fame, I shall say.
And I'm gonna go to that one just so I can show you the. I can show you the synopsis of that one. Because even when I read the synopses, even though I didn't get around to reading the actual comic, it sounded pretty cool. Because Radio Squad is kind of
Mm-hmm.
a police type story there.
Yeah.
See, what was that? Oh, yeah, it was number 12, I believe. Where August 1930. Yeah, that was number 12. And I'm gonna skip all the way down to Radio Squad because I think this is like one of the first issues that Radio Squad was actually in the synopses, because that one actually is a police based.
Mm-hmm. I just thought of something. Think of so radio squad, right? Or
Oh, here they call it here calling all cars. Radio Squad calling all cars.
Calling All Cars. Now that's famous. I know that. Woody's heard of that. That's
yeah. Well, okay. So on the Amazing World of DC Comics page, it's called Radio Squad. Here it's listed as Calling All Cars.
I've heard of Calling All Cars.
Siegel Schuster is Detective Mystery. Sandy Keene, Commissioner Bailey, Doris Bailey, the commissioner's daughter, the Purple Tiger, the Purple Tiger's gang. Synopses: The Purple Tiger, a hooded and robed leader of a gang of crooks and kidnappers, has Doris Bailey, spoiled daughter of the police commissioner, kidnapped. And then it was reprinted in Federal Men Comics from Gerard Publishing Company in 1945, number 2. Oh, but yeah, this was an interesting story. Doris Bailey's being kidnapped. But when I'd read some of these, calling, whether you want to call them Calling Our Cars or Radio Squad, I found it interesting. These kind of police drama comics. This one in particular was one that you really could get into.
And think what it led to. Honestly, you could say, well, if it weren't for that, you would have never had Car 54, Where Are You, which was a very famous show. You would have never had Adam 12, another famous show.
Just about you see here, when you look at the cover here, it says right here, all originals, all new. And yeah, and again, I think a lot of these ones were starting to go more. Well, you still had some humor, like Little Linda there, but you started seeing, more of them go towards, you did start seeing them kind of start going more towards adventure a little bit, but you still had a bit of a mix there. So again, so unless anybody wants me to go into any further detail on anything, I think I'll wrap that up there, because I went through a few synopses, and I think everybody's kind of got the idea of what's going on here with how the comic books were being put together, at this point, so I mean, we're still obviously going to continue this series. We'll come back next week and do July of 1936, but the coverage I wanted to get across was obviously just, showing, just the diversity of the stories and how that was all going. Because we're
sure. And
go ahead.
I think that people are picking up on what you said. What we've noticed, especially tonight, is that they're starting to hinge. Hedge. What am I trying to say? They're putting everything towards stringing out the longer, more involved storylines.
Well, yeah. Well, that would be some of the when things really started to pick up in 35. There, they were starting out as serial stories, but as we get to the end of 1936 and into 1937, and you start seeing themed anthologies, the stories are going to become less, but they're going to be longer. So right now, you may have a maximum of 4 pages for a particular story. They're gonna increase to like 7 pages. They're gonna the page count's gonna start increasing, but the number of stories in the book is gonna decrease. So, and then of course tonight we saw New Comics number 6. It'd still be a few issues before that one would go through a title change, as previously mentioned. So yeah. So basically, I think we're done with that now, because as we said, we're already hour and 44-minute mark. So I think it'd be a good time to wrap up. If you want to stay a few minutes to close it out with me, after I close up shop here.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed that tonight. I hope you guys found it informative and found it entertaining, and found some of the information interesting in terms of how comics were written and developed back then. Of course, we're going to be continuing this series for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly when I'll end it, but looking back and watching how comics have evolved over time and stuff like that, that's kind of an interesting thing. So with all that being said, is everybody ready for history for this
Of
day?
course. Always ready for history. That's
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah. So I'm just seeing if anybody will respond. I know they usually do.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Let me just take a quick peek at some of this stuff. All right. So let's see now. Need it up. All right. So today being Friday, December 18th, 2020, let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. And Backo, you're of course welcome to give any commentary that you may have if something grabs your attention.
If I know anything about it, I'll try to chip. I'll try to chip something in.
So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go back 40 years ago today on this day back in 1980. The 125th issue of Creepy from Warren Comics went on sale on this date for $1.75, and it was a 72 pager. What I'm guessing is Creepy was probably some kind of horror, kind of mystery horror comic, I guess. In fact, what's kind of funny, the little picture in the corner here looks kind of like a Ferengi.
I was just thinking that. It looks like Quark, doesn't it? Or not Quark. What's his name? The Ferengi dude.
Well,
The main.
Quark is one of them. You have Rom, you have Nog.
It is Quark is the main Ferengi guy, right?
Yeah,
From
on Deep
Deep
Space
Space
Nine.
Nine. Yeah.
So on this date 40 years ago, the 125th issue of Creepy from Warren Comics went on sale on this date. So, anyways, let's.
It looks like a cool magazine.
Yeah, my
I
guess
would have
it was
read that.
probably some kind of like horror mystery type comic.
If I didn't, I was 12 at the time, so that's something I would have picked up and read. But things
Well,
were
it may
things.
not have been in the comic shops because remember the CCA,
Mm-hmm.
Comics Code Authority.
Yeah, and I told you that there was. Maybe I mentioned this, that growing up in Santa Monica, there's a well, you know where Santa Monica is. There's a real famous comic shop called Heidi Ho Comics, and I used to go there as a kid and pick up all the underground, like the cooler
Yeah.
comics.
So of course our next stop is going to be the year 2000, which was 20 years ago today. We're going to look at and on this date in the year 2000, 20 years ago today, the WWF at the time was hosting an event, hosting a Raw event at the Bilo Center in Greenville, South Carolina. The main event being Kurt Angle retaining the WWF Championship over Vince McMahon in a no contest. Also on the card, you had the opening match was Chris Benoit retaining the Intercontinental Championship over Jeff Hardy. You also had The Rock and Undertaker defeat Edge and Christian for the WWF Tag Team Championships. Also on the night, you had Jacqueline the APA teaming up to defeat the tag team of Trish Stratus and TNA, Tess and Albert. Now, for those of you who are wrestling fans who probably remember what was going on back then, Trish Stratus, of course, was one of the top divas in the company. So she had her kind of act as manager / valet for Tess and Albert, the late Tess, late Andrew Martin, and Albert Matt Bloom. Tess was, I think, they were both, I think, were like 6'8". Albert was 350 pounds, I think. Test was 280. But as kind of a tongue-in-cheek reference, they called the tag team TNA. Meant, the double entendre meant. So, and then you, of course, also saw the Right to Censor defeat Billy Gunn and the Dudley Boys. William Regal defeat Steve Austin via DQ. So that was happening all on Raw in 2000. So, and of course back then WCW was still around. So we're gonna hit 2000 at least twice. Hint, hint.
Because it's so nice.
Well, now while the WWE was hosting Raw in Greenville, South Carolina, WCW was at the Richmond Coliseum in Richmond, Virginia, hosting Monday Night Raw. In the main event of that match, you had the finals of the WCW World Heavyweight Title contendership matches. Jeff Jarrett defeating Lance Storm. Setting this up were qualifying matches earlier in the night that saw Lance Storm defeat Rey Mysterio Jr. and Jeff Jarrett defeat Mike Awesome. Also on the night, you saw Terry Funk retain the WCW Hardcore title over Meng. And you also had a WCW World Cruiserweight title #1 contendership match in which Shane Helms, who would go on later to become the Hurricane in the WWF, defeat Shannon Moore. So the Monday Night Wars were still active at that point. So you had Monday Night Raw in Greenville, South Carolina at the Bilo Center, and you had WCW Monday Nitro at the Richmond Coliseum in Richmond, Virginia. And if you thought that 2000 twice was nice, well, let me tell you something. 2000 is thrice nice.
Wow, a triple.
Because also on this date in the year 2000, now this is actually a bit more of a sadder piece of news. As actor Nick Stewart, who was the voice of Specs Crow in Dumbo and Brer Bear in Song of the South, would pass away at the age of 90. Nick Stewart, also credited at times as Nick Odamus, known also for his work on TV's Amos and Andy show. He would pass away at the age of 90 on this date in 2000. In which he would for cartoon animated fans, he was the voice of Specs Crow in Dumbo, and
that's such a classic.
And Brer Bear in Song of the South. So
I can hear his voice. Those roles are both so iconic and famous.
Well, I guess from what I saw of the picture there too, let's see, if he was on the Amos and Andy show, I think he was black. He was black, probably, right?
Oh yeah, and he definitely hammed up his voice like a Rochester from the Jack Benny show, especially the Crow voice. I ain't never seen no elephant fly. Yeah. From Dumbo, that was definitely hammed up.
Yeah,
but I mean that was his thing. That's what he did, and I would imagine he loved doing it. I mean, it was his gig, and
But you know what I would though. Here's the thing too. I bet you if he was to try that today, if let's say he was alive today and in his prime, and he was to try that today, what do you think would probably happen?
They wouldn't let him. They'd tear him apart, and they'd crucify him and say, "How dare you?" And they'd say, "You're an alt-right, Yahtzee," and he'd be like,
"Remember, he's black too. He's
black
doing this, So it wouldn't just be he's alt-right. They'd probably be calling him an Uncle Tom too.
They would absolutely do that, and yeah, they would call him every name in the book. And it's
Like, how dare you make fun of our people, man?
Isn't it funny when a little rich Jew kid from New York tells a black person how they should live and how they're supposed to think. And I can say Jew because my dad was a Jew.
Yeah, albeit I remember an old PBS special where they talked about that, where I guess people would at times use the word Jew, or more colloquially, to Jew, to mean to cheat somebody, and that wasn't considered kosher. So
well, kosher, that's a Hebrew term right there.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm a bit of a master of words. I'm
that's true. Well, and you live in LA too, so I mean, there's not gonna lie, there's one or two.
I don't live in LA. I do live in LA County, but I don't live in LA.
But I know how
I'm in Southern California.
I know how big LA is. LA County itself is one of I think it's the most populous county in the country. But just in general, Southern California, there's one or two Jewish people down there. I don't know if you noticed that.
Read. I want you to read this, Matt. Go read what Eddie said.
I see what he said. He said Jew.
No.
A-O-O.
I just.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you imagine putting a lefty back in the 30s? Yeah, that's really interesting, Anon. That's a good idea, because everything, the hate and everything they're freaking out about, they preach, they would go back, and their amount of hate and vitriol would fit them into the category of the people they're talking about who they hate. If that makes sense. The people that are weird like this are so weird that you put them back, 90 years ago, and they would be ostracized, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because nobody back in those days really felt sorry for themselves. They just went about their business as best they could. And
that's very true.
That's
very true. People, whether they were being oppressed or not, people just fought on and just did whatever it took to put food on the table and keep their family going. And that's just gone. That's completely gone with today's knuckleheads.
Yeah, because unfortunately, particularly in the colleges too, is that you have the situation where you basically keep telling these people that the reason that they're not happy and successful is because it's all the rich white men's fault that they're not happy and successful. Not that they need to get up off their own behinds and go out and try to make their lives successful. No, it's like they're expected to be given to them.
Well, yes, of course, because it's always somebody else's fault. Specifically, a white man somehow, like you and I, have caused all the people in the world to not be able to fulfill their dreams of whatever. I don't know.
Right. I think a lot of times when they think of conservatives or Republicans, those on the left, have you ever seen the movie The Mighty Ducks?
Yes.
Okay, you remember Emilio Estevez's boss, Mr. Duckworth?
His boss. It's been a long time. I don't remember him.
Okay. So in the Mighty Ducks, of course, as with any like little league team, in this case, little league hockey, they obviously needed a sponsor to pay for like uniforms and stuff like that. So Emilio Estevez got his law office, Duckworth, hence the name the Ducks.
Mm-hmm.
To sponsor them.
Yeah.
But there's that one scene where one of the rival districts, because what they said was the map had changed, and therefore the superstar team that was there, the like where if the Ducks were like the underdogs or the lowest team, had the highest team for always being, and the star player on the highest team should not have been with the highest team because the map had been changed and nobody had noticed it. And so they were
Okay.
trying. If you remember the movie, part of it was, and the character's name was Adam Banks, is who it was. Adam Banks was supposed to be in the Ducks district, not in the Hawks district. And then you had the coach of the Hawks go to Duckworth, who was Emilio Estevez's boss, because they were friends, and he brought him in. So you don't remember that scene from the movie?
No, it's been a long time since I've seen that one.
Okay.
I mean, I just remember the basic idea.
A tall guy with white hair, but basically it was that character that I think most lefties think of when they think of a conservative Republican.
Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Guy kind of get. Yeah. So anyways, now back to one last piece of history, and now we're gonna go to the year 2015 here, or no, 2010. Sorry, 2000. On this date in 2010, the last episode of Zebek's anime MM would premiere on this date in 2010 on Zebek, the last in Japan on ATX network. On this date in 2010, 10 years ago today, MM would premiere its final episode on ATX. So that's all that happened on this date in each history. So with all that being said, and Batcode, if you'll be kind enough to stick around after I close this out, I thank everybody. I thank everybody for coming in tonight. We got up to 7 people watching, so that was nice. I kind of wish they all had stayed through the whole thing, but never know. But I hope you guys have been finding the comic retrospect interesting.
Peace, Anon. You're gonna go watch Nick and Drex. I understand. So
yeah,
we understand. We know.
Yeah. So yeah. We're past the 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I'll close it out then, and I thank you guys again for joining me, and I will see you all back on Monday. And don't forget, I will be streaming on Thursday and Friday as well. Thursday night for Christmas Eve. I'll just open it up for anybody who wants to join me. I know some of you may not be with your families, so I'll open it up. I understand for those who do have families or who want to spend time with their family, they don't show up, and I'll still be on. And we'll kind of just have another kickback night. I'll open up the studio for anybody who wants to come in. We'll just try to chat up whatever we can find. So I'll see you guys on Monday. Bye.